Hi Facebook, I'm Erie Times News online reporter Sarah Grabsky. We are here at North Coast Flight School. As you can see behind us, a very fun, historic morning. I am here with Ray Fowler. He is the chief pilot of the plane that's right behind us, B-17, the World War II B-17 Madras Maiden. So tell us a little bit about the plane first, Ray.
Well, probably the most famous airplane ever built as far as a bomber goes. This is the Flying Fortress, WWII B-17 Flying Fortress. And this is the Madras Maiden. We've had it here once before, and we're back again for this weekend's events for the public to come out, hopefully take a flight with us, and to go tour through the plane.
So tell us about how can people see the plane this weekend?
Well, start with the Liberty Foundation. So Liberty Foundation is libertyfoundation.org is our website. It's got our phone number, which that phone number is 678-589-7433. You can call in, get a tour coordinator, they can have the information, and we start flying at 9 a.m. in the morning, and we fly every 45 minutes. So we take 9 passengers, and it's $450 per person, so not everybody can afford to fly.
Right.
That's the ultimate way to experience it in the air. But after we're done, we just open the airplane for ground tours, and hopefully you can take a tour through the airplane for a donation, and we hopefully get enough money to keep it flying.
What time do rides start on Saturday?
We'll start at 9 a.m. So we typically go 9 every 45 minutes, and again, based on Saturday, Sunday, with the weather, it depends on, we're very flexible as far as making sure we get everybody that wants to go fly while we're here in Erie.
So what's the experience? What are they paying for?
Well, it's you're only sat for takeoff and landing, so it's really amazing. You get to go through all the different combat crew positions. So as soon as we break ground, you get to unbuckle and you get to run and play. We tell people don't run and play because you love to bump your head in this airplane. It collects DNA, and if I had $1 for every head bump in a B-17, I'd have my own B-17. But really, you know, it had a crew of 10 in World War II, so you had the tail gunner, waist gunners, a radio operator, top turret gunner, obviously pilot, co-pilot, and the ultimate place is in the nose where the bombardier is up there. So we have an original Norton bomb sight. You can actually sit up in the nose, and the glass nose up there, which that is an unbelievable way to see Erie from the nose of the airplane. So it's just a great way. The only place you can't go is in the tail. We don't let you get in the tail gunner position, or the ball turret, which we can look by when we walk by, is the ball turret, which in the war I don't think I'd want to be in the ball turret in the war anyway, even though statistically it was the safest part of the plane. And then obviously pilot and co-pilot seats, so we don't let people get up in the pilot seats.
Right.
But really it's an amazing airplane, and it's a great piece of history, and very popular. People just come out and they take multiple flights with us. So again, it's the way we keep it flying.
So tell us a little bit. This specific B-17 never saw action, right?
None of the flyers did.
Okay.
So we tell everyone, most of the airplanes, even at the end of World War II, the B-17 was kind of obsolete. So non-pressurized. It was already being outpaced by pressurization with the turbine and jet engines. So what would you do with a B-17 at the end of World War II? It had no purpose.
Right.
So they were sold into civil service as ant sprayers, bore 8 bombers, fire bombers, tanker bombers, some cargo. So that's the only reason they survived. Most people bought them and they scrapped them. They actually took the gas out. The gas was worth more than the airplane they paid. And I was told this one was sold for $700. So
oh my gosh.
I know it's only worth about probably $4 or $5 million right now as it sits. But for $700. But who would want a B-17 at the time?
Right.
And they built, again, 12,732 airplanes, and now only 14 are airworthy and surviving. So,
wow.
And we actually have 2 airplanes we're restoring. So there are different airplanes that are different level of restoration, and that's why we need the public's money. Because we need people to donate and keep these airplanes, not only this one going, but help our restoration for our Liberty Bell, which was damaged in 2014 or 2011, and just come down and be involved. And that's another thing, while we have you and you guys are doing this nice podcast for us, is volunteerism. I mean, we survive off of people donating their time and talent too.
Right.
So we want people to come out and get involved. So
yeah,
it's really not about us. It's about keeping the airplane going. And there's a lot of other museums and people that do what we do, but we don't want people to go to them. They want to go to us and help us support our plane.
So tell me a little bit about the history, like you kind of touched on this earlier, but the B-17 in World War II, like what kind of role did it play?
Well, it was the daylight, medium, heavy bomber of World War II. So most people that know nothing about airplanes or aviation, they know about a B-17. They've seen the movie Memphis Belle. That was probably, Hollywood took their liberties with that airplane, and we actually operated the Memphis Belle aircraft for 2 years, and actually had it through Erie as well. So they took their liberties, but that's a pretty good snapshot of what people would have seen in World War II. So 19 years old, was probably the oldest guy on the crew, and that would be the aircraft commander, so you had to grow up in a hurry. They had, it's unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell people my kids are already trying to take my keys away from me, and but they gave 19-year-olds these airplanes to go fly, and an unbelievable responsibility to go out. And what they did for our freedoms, and early in the war, they called it the Flying Fortress, and you'll see it when you walk around it. It's got the defensive guns all around it. So it's 50 caliber guns. There's 13 50 caliber guns. So it truly was a fortress, and they had hundreds of airplanes that flew together. So you'd have thousands of guns when they were attacked by the fighters. And the flak, they flew at 30,000 feet, so it's 40 below zero. So they're in heated suits with no pressurization, on oxygen. Unbelievable working environment.
Was it role more of an escort, or was it strictly a bomber?
It was strictly a bomber, and then the escort was the P-51, and that's obviously the #1 fighter of World War II is the P-51. That airplane, once it could make it all the way to the target, then the mortality of the crews went way up, so they were survivable. The missions were survivable. Early in the war, when the fighters couldn't go, they were just sitting ducks. Once the fighters turned back, they just would get picked off one by one, and every time an airplane went down, there was a crew of 10 of it. So sometimes on some missions, they would come back and they would lose hundreds of airplanes and literally thousands of air crew.
Sure.
And early in the war, and that's why the Memphis Belle was such a big deal. And the actual Memphis Belle, it was the first airplane to complete 25 missions. At 25, you got to go home, so that was a big deal. But on any given day, you think about waking up on any day, going out and seeing, you know, 2/3 of your squadron wiped out with new people, new fresh faces coming in, knowing you have to get up and do it again in a day or two. It's unbelievable. I mean, you think about the patriotism. It was patriotism. So now you see, we're standing out there and we see these guys that are out here, and they don't always tell their story. Sometimes they never told their family. And you go up in the attic after, you know, you find out your grandfather after he's long since passed. You pull out and you find out his medals and what he did for our country. And it's not just he, it was everybody. I mean, everybody in this entire country was for the war effort, and that's why we prevailed. It's just I'd like to think that if we were forced into that again, that our country would rally and do what these people did, but I'm not so sure. It's just you know, I was sitting with Bud Anderson, is a triple ace, and he flew, he's 96 years young, and I was sitting with him.
What does a triple ace mean?
So he shot down so 5 aircraft as an ace, and then 15 is a triple ace, and he shot down 16 and a quarter airplanes. So unbelievable. I'm honored I get to fly his airplane. It's painted in his paint scheme, the old crew, and that was the fighter, the escort fighter that flew with these airplanes. But you know, I watch him even at 96. So anytime somebody comes up to him to say anything, he stands up, even though it's very laborious for him to get up. Anytime there's the national anthem, he stands. I mean, it's just these guys. It's unbelievable.
Such like a patriotism.
It is, and they take it from their whole lives. And again, that's what we're here. We want the people from Erie to come out, and then if somebody cannot get out there, if you have a loved one in Erie that's stuck at a VFW or stuck at a veterans home, you know, send it to us. We can't say we can't do it. We're going to be flying all week, Saturday, Sunday. If we can fly this airplane over them, and they can roll about, see their airplane fly around, we'll love to do it. And I'll be flying this weekend. That would be awesome.
That's great. All right, so we are actually going to be inside, right?
Great idea.
Okay, all right. We're going to let our photography supervisor catch up with us. All right, perfect. Shall we? So, are you coming around, Chris? Okay. As we're talking, how big is this aircraft?
So it's got 103 foot of wingspan, and really from a weight standpoint, they would fly at about 60,000 pounds. We're nowhere near that now because we don't have all the bullets and the bombs that we fly with. And but yeah, it's a big airplane for what it. And when you go through it, you're going to say, well, this is kind of small with all the oxygen bottles and all the other stuff they put in. There was almost no room to move for the crew, so it's kind of cleared out in that regard. So we're going in the back door. So in the back, so if you look towards the back right now, of course we have some netting up here, but that's back where the tail gunner would sit, and that was basically the worst seat in the house, in my opinion, because that was the highest mortality rate for people rolling in and shooting the airplane from the back.
Wow.
This would be waist gunner, so left and right waist gunner. This is a 50 caliber machine gunner. And it's interesting, the evolution of the B-17. So the earlier models, they didn't think about it. Both of these were back-to-back. So you can imagine when they're swinging, these guys were hitting back-to-back. So this is a G model. They actually took and they offset these guns. So now this person could fight over here, this person could fight over here.
Could you come in close on these rounds?
Sure, absolutely.
There's a 50 caliber.
Yes, sir.
How big is that? You got your hand on it?
Yeah, well, that kind of gives you an idea. It's a big round, and
wow.
And again, these are all dummy rounds, but it kind of gives you a good idea of what it is. And what's interesting about this as well is, so we have a lot of people that worked on these, and these are obviously replicas. It'd be way too valuable to put in the real things, but people that actually worked on this and they come out and they look at them, they're always impressed that they think that we've gone to the level of detail where people look at them and think that they're that's what they work with. Absolutely.
Sure.
So straight down here, that's the ball turret. So again, shortest guy in the crew got to get in the ball turret, and statistically safest part of the plane.
Right.
Again, but another amazing stories that we hear told, this guy couldn't even wear a parachute. So if they were going to bail out and the airplane was going down, the waist gunner would actually stay to hand him his parachute.
Oh,
and if he didn't get out, the waist gunner went down with the plane.
Oh.
And they went down, obviously they wouldn't. It's not like you're pushing people out of the way, like if your airliner is having trouble. I think people will be fighting to be the first one through the door. I mean, again, that was their role, and they served their role. They would do that. But again, that was, and I'll tell you a quick funny story. I like the way in squadrons that people mess with somebody. So I had a guy come out to me, and he said for his first 2 missions, he was told that he would spin the ball turret when the flak was going off, that if it was spinning, the flak would hit and bounce off. So after 2 missions, one of the other guys came to him and said, I can't believe you fell for that, because somebody had told him. So I just love it that for squadrons people did that, even the lightheartedness of them going and doing their jobs out there. So this guy's spinning in circles because somebody told him the flak would bounce off as a joke, which is funny. So this is into the radio room, and if you look there, you'll see some of the radios set here. And we've added the seats. Obviously, there were no seats in here. This was the only place there actually were seats for the radio operator, but all the rest of the people would sit on the floor for takeoff and landing. But this big hatch, we leave this hatch open for while we're flying. So this is where the 13th gun was, and pretty neat. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's great for the girls because it makes their hair go into a rat nest. It literally, you'll be brushing your hair for days. But it's really an awesome place to come and actually look around while we're flying in here. And a lot of the wind is blocked from the top turret in the front, so pretty awesome.
So is it loud in here when?
It is loud, but not like you would think. Some of the warbirds I fly are unbelievably loud. This one's relatively quiet. But it's windy. But
it adds to the experience.
It adds to the experience, yes.
Great, should I go all the way across?
Absolutely.
All right.
This is the long plane, So we're kind of working our way through the Bombay here. So this is the business end of the airplane. And once you get through here, it's a little dark, I'm sure. It's probably hard to see on the podcast here, but we have 4 500-pound bombs. So these are replica bombs. Again, very authentic to the way they're made, but these are obviously not real iron bombs. But they would put, if you see the size of these, they could carry up to a size of 12 of these airplanes. So on the inner and outer racks for this, and a lot of missions also, they would have to go with fewer bombs because they needed the fuel to get to the target. So sometimes, they would go for 3 or 4 bombs. So what's incredible now, especially after being a current military guy myself, they would go with hundreds of airplanes and thousands of bombs to go to a target, but because it wasn't precision bombing, so you had to, you just basically, carpet bombed areas to try to get the targets you were trying to. Whereas today with GPS guided bombs, you don't miss. So which is amazing. So now you can send one F-16 with a couple of pairs of well placed JDAM guided GPS bombs, and that target is done.
What did each one of these bombs weigh, and what kind of firepower? Is it just a big piece of lead or metal, or is there gunpowder or some type of explosive?
Well, it's kind of like gunpowder. It's just like tryptanol. So these were metal bombs, and inside of them they had a fusing in the back. So what would happen is the people in the back, and again hard to see, this would be like a fusing wire, and once it comes out, it would spin. This would spin in the air to actually arm an initiator into the back of the bomb, and that would keep it safe so they wouldn't go off while they're in the airplane. So once they started down, they would go and again, once they're armed, they would do good work for when they went down. And of course, when we get into the nose, we'll show you the Norton bomb sight, and the Norton bomb sight is what did all the math for the precision munitions up there. If you want to go all the way there first.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Sarah, do you want to? Is there space for Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sarah, go ahead and take a look.
Down here?
Yes, absolutely. Just watch your head again. This thing, if you hadn't bumped your head yet, I'm impressed.
I know, right?
Should I go or
yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So this is the what?
Go ahead, Ray. Ray. I'll stay here. You go back. You go back.
Sure. So what do you think?
Oh my God. So this is what, the front gunner? Is this what this called?
So there was a seat here, and actually we have the seat removed right now. So this was the Bombardier. So
Bombardier.
So both the people up here were the Navigator and the Bombardier, but they were gunners anytime they were under attack.
Okay.
So, but however, with a seat there, if you can imagine, that is a Norton bomb sight. So that was one of our more guarded secrets of World War II. You had to be you were an officer to be in that position, and they would carry that to and from the aircraft.
Wow.
And again, if you can imagine the math involved for dumb iron bombs to drop and be relatively close to a target. So they would actually come over and take over the plane. And so over here is this panel, see the bombing control panel. They would actually take over the plane from an IP initial point to the target run. And they've already figured out the winds and the drift. And not every airplane had a Norton bomb sight, so really only the lead airplane. So sometimes they'd have hundreds of airplanes.
This piece of metal was very top secret stuff.
Very top secret. Recently declassified. Yeah, actually unbelievable in what that would do. So you hear about the dropping in the pickle barrel. That is what that would do. So it would look. They would look through there and they would sight the target, and they've already dialed in all the math for the drift, the speed, the winds, and the calculations, and then everybody else would drop off the lead airplane. So when they dropped, they had bombardiers and they had toggleiers. So the toggleiers were up here. Well, they were gunners, but they were watching the main airplanes. And when they dropped, they just flipped the switch and dropped as well.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
It really is. And again, very important job up here on this would be the Navigator, because navigation was time, speed, and distance. And of course, part of the trickery of getting to the target is not going from your base direct, so you didn't get shot down. So they would go to a different area and try to work their ways in from different axis to make sure that they wouldn't be engaged as early and make sure as many airplanes could get to the target as possible.
That's crazy.
Up to the cockpit.
Sure.
Okay.
So people can walk through this section though, right?
You can stand here and fly, absolutely. In fact, the problem is getting people out of here. So we only have a short flight. It's about a 30-minute flight. So people get up here and it's like a magic carpet ride. They don't want to leave. So, but fortunately, there's usually 8 other passengers that'll pull them out.
Pilot always sits on the left.
Yeah, we can put Sarah.
Sarah, jump. You're co-pilot, Sarah.
So Sarah, just watch your head on this again, and then just step right on there. And you can grab anything and just slide right onto the seat there.
Watch your head.
Got it.
Got that figured out. And we get a burst of air, which is kind of.
That feels nice.
That is nice.
So this is pretty much the only thing that's off limits during flight, though.
This is it.
This is where you would fly.
This and the tail, yes. So many years ago, we actually had a program where we put people in the seat to fly, and that'll never happen again in today's environment. But yeah, so this is obviously a pilot co-pilot seat where you would be standing right here. There'd be a full top turret here, so that's been removed. And it's actually on the top of the plane, but this whole area would be a turret that someone would be standing in before it goes back to the bomb bay. But yeah, this is where we do our work to fly around Erie.
So talk to me. I'm going to reiterate the question that my colleague asked you. How safe is this?
It's a great question. Because everybody asks. Because it's a 70-plus-year-old airplane. I will take this airplane over any of the other airplanes I fly from a standpoint of safety. So one of the reasons the FAA allows us to give the passenger rides is because of the safety record of the B-17. So it's an unbelievably safe airplane to go fly. So a lot of the wear and tear on airplanes, particularly older airplanes you think about, is pressurization. So this is a non-pressurized airplane. And again, from a standpoint of flying, we're so light with 4 engines. Even in wartime, this airplane supposedly would fly on 1 engine. I wouldn't want to try that, but obviously you could shut off multiple engines. And the flying public would never know the difference unless they looked out and saw an engine not running. So it's an unbelievably safe airplane. That's why they allow us to do it. We're run really much like an airline. So the FAA has set guidelines to allow operators, and there's only, I think, 17 museums that have the authorization to fly passengers. So it's a huge responsibility. We want to keep the public safe. And so that is, again, I would put my family on any of the operators that have the exemptions, just knowing the training requirements and what they've required for people to come out and fly it. But it is a great question. And we do take a risk with the airplane, just not from a standpoint of it being less safe from anything else, just like taking your classic car out of the garage. I mean, you go out and who knows, from winds or weather or a thunderstorm, it's sitting on the ground. So again, we take that risk, but it's very safe.
Right. that's exactly. Before we wrap it up here, I was going to ask you, just remind people how they can have access to all of this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, we got to have them come out as best they can. So the best way to do it is to go to libertyfoundation.org. So that's our website. Or you can call into the main phone number. It's 678-589-7433. So if you want to call the number, go to the website, call up, come out, see the airplane fly in the airplane.
Yeah.
It's great.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, Ray. We'll see you guys this weekend.